I thought I knew my wife of 19 years until my 2-year-old daughter innocently mentioned the nice man who hugs mommy like daddy does. What I discovered next destroyed everything I believed about my family, and the DNA test results were just the beginning of the nightmare. My name is Henry Hope. I'm 47 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Good job as a marketing manager at Fletcher & Associates, nice house in suburban Ohio, 2 kids, and a wife who I believed loved me. Turns out, I was living in a fantasy. I've got 2 kids, William, my 17-year-old son who's sharp as a tack, and little Mia, who just turned 2. William's been acting strange lately, shooting his mother these looks when she's not paying attention. The kind of looks that say he knows something he shouldn't. Rebecca, my wife of 19 years, used to be different. Back when we met, she was working double shifts at a diner, struggling after her father walked out. I helped her get back on her feet, supported her through night school. But somewhere along the way, that fire started burning in a different direction. It started small, working late more often, new clothes I didn't recognize, different perfume that wasn't her usual vanilla scent. She'd come home talking about networking events, always with excited energy that used to be reserved for family time. "How was the office today, honey?" I'd ask over dinner. "Oh, same old stuff," Rebecca would say, not looking up from cutting Mia's food. "Just some new initiatives Derek's been pushing through." Derek Patterson, regional sales manager at her company. The name started popping up constantly. Derek thinks this, Derek suggested that. Always Derek. 3 weeks ago, I was helping Mia with her sippy cup when she started babbling about Mama's friend. "What friend, sweetheart?" I asked, kneeling down. "The nice man," Mia said, clapping her hands. "He gives Mama hugs like Dada does." My blood went cold. I caught William listening from the hallway, and our eyes met. I saw something there, knowledge that made my stomach drop. That night, I sat in my office staring at bank statements. Small cash withdrawals, always Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. $60 each time, consistent for 2 months. I opened Rebecca's laptop while she slept. Browser history was cleared, but autofill told a different story. Hotel searches, restaurant reservations, even how to tell your husband you're leaving him. The next morning, Rebecca hummed while making breakfast, acting normal. She kissed my forehead before leaving. "See you tonight, Henry," she said. "I might be late. Derek wants the team to review quarterly projections." There was again. Derek. As her car disappeared, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. The next morning, I drove to work with my mind racing. I couldn't focus on the Johnson account presentation or the budget meeting that afternoon. All I could think about was Derek Patterson and what exactly was going on between him and my wife. During lunch break, I called Rebecca's office. "Fletcher & Associates, this is Jennifer." The receptionist answered. "Hi, Jennifer. This is Henry Hope. Is my wife Rebecca available?" "Oh, hi, Mr. Hope. I'm sorry, but Rebecca's not in today. She's at an off-site client meeting with Derek Patterson. They left around 10 this morning." My stomach dropped. Rebecca had told me she'd be at her desk all day working on quarterly reports. "Do you know when they'll be back?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not until late afternoon, I believe. Something about a lunch presentation in Columbus." Columbus was 2 hours away. A full-day trip with Derek, and she hadn't mentioned it to me. I hung up and sat in my car, hands shaking. This was it, concrete proof she was lying. But I needed more than suspicious feelings and strange coincidences. That evening, Rebecca came home at 7:30, looking tired but oddly energized. "How were those quarterly reports, honey?" I asked while helping Mia with her dinner. "Exhausting," Rebecca said, not meeting my eyes. "Numbers all day long. Sounds rough. At least you didn't have to leave the office." She froze for just a second, then recovered. "Right, exactly. Just me and the computer." William looked up from his homework, watching the exchange. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw that same knowing expression. Later that night, after everyone was asleep, I went to our home office and opened my laptop. If Rebecca was having an affair, there would be evidence somewhere. I just had to know where to look. I started with social media. Rebecca's Facebook seemed normal enough, but when I checked her activity log, I found something interesting. She'd been tagged in photos by colleagues, but one caught my attention. A group photo from a company happy hour last month. Rebecca stood next to Derek, both of them smiling. His hand rested on her lower back in a way that seemed too familiar, too intimate for coworkers. I saved the photo and kept digging. Her email was password protected, but I knew Rebecca. She used the same 3 passwords for everything: our anniversary, Mia's birthday, or William's birthday. The third one worked. My heart pounded as I scrolled through her inbox. Most of it was work-related, but then I found a folder labeled Personal Projects. Inside were dozens of emails between Rebecca and Derek. The early ones were professional, discussing sales strategies and client meetings. But as I scrolled down, the tone changed. Jokes became flirtier. Work discussions included personal details. And then, from 3 weeks ago, an email that made my blood run cold. Derek had written, "Can't wait for our Columbus trip tomorrow. Finally some time away from the office chaos." Rebecca's response, "Me too. It'll be nice to have some real privacy for once." I printed the entire email chain and put it in a folder. This was evidence, but I needed more. I needed to know exactly how far this had gone. The next day was Thursday, one of Rebecca's regular late work nights. She kissed me goodbye that morning, told me not to wait up. "Derek's got another one of his team projects," she said casually. "Might not be home until after 11. Instead of going to work, I called in sick and drove to Rebecca's office building. I parked across the street with a clear view of the employee parking garage and waited. At 6:15, I watched Rebecca walk out with Derek Patterson. They didn't head to the office conference room or a nearby restaurant. Instead, they got into Derek's silver BMW and drove toward the highway. I followed them, keeping my distance. They took the exit toward Riverside, the nice part of town with expensive hotels and romantic restaurants. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I realized where this was heading. I watched Derek's BMW pull into the parking lot of the Riverside Inn. My hands were sweating as I parked 2 blocks away and walked back, staying in the shadows. This was really happening. My wife was meeting another man at a hotel. Through the lobby window, I saw them at the front desk. Rebecca laughed at something Derek said, touching his arm like they'd done this before. The desk clerk handed them a key card, and they headed toward the elevators. I waited 10 minutes, then approached the front desk myself. "Excuse me," I said to the young clerk. "I think I just saw my business partner check in. Derek Patterson? I'm supposed to join their meeting." The clerk looked confused. "Meeting, sir? Mr. Patterson booked a single room for the evening." My stomach dropped. "A single room?" "Yes, sir. Room 314. But he specifically requested no disturbances." I thanked him and walked outside on shaky legs. A single room. Not a business meeting. Not a work dinner. A hotel room. I drove home in a daze. William was doing homework when I walked in, and little Mia ran to hug my legs. "Daddy, Mama's not home yet." "I know, sweetheart. She's working late." William looked up from his textbook. "Dad, you look terrible. What's wrong?" I sat down heavily on the couch. "William, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Have you noticed anything different about your mother lately?" William closed his book and looked around to make sure Mia was out of earshot. "Dad, I've been wanting to talk to you about this. Last month, I saw Mom's car at the Riverside Inn when she said she was at a work conference downtown, and she's been getting phone calls that make her smile in ways that—" He paused. "In ways she doesn't smile at you anymore." The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. My teenage son had been protecting me from what he already knew. "How long have you suspected?" I asked. "A couple months." "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know how to tell you." I pulled William into a hug. "You did nothing wrong, son. Nothing at all." That night, Rebecca came home at midnight, humming softly. She kissed my forehead, whispered that the team meeting ran long, and went to shower. I lay there listening to the water run, knowing exactly where she'd been and what she'd done. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to an electronics store across town. "I need a surveillance system," I told the store clerk. "Something portable, high quality." Within an hour, I'd purchased 2 small wireless cameras and motion sensors. If Rebecca was living a double life, I was going to document every second of it. I installed the first camera in our garage, hidden behind old paint cans with a clear view of Rebecca's car. The second went in our bedroom, disguised as a phone charger on the nightstand. Both cameras fed to an app on my phone. That afternoon, I drove to the Riverside Inn and spoke with the manager. "I'm a private investigator." I lied, showing him my business card from work. "I'm working a case involving some guests who've been meeting here regularly. Derek Patterson and Rebecca Hope." The manager, a tired-looking man in his 50s, nodded. They've been coming in every Thursday for about 6 weeks. Always the same room, 314. 6 weeks. My voice almost broke. Regular as clockwork. Nice couple. Always polite. I thanked him and left, my hands shaking with rage. 6 weeks of Thursday night lies. 6 weeks of hotel meetings while I stayed home with our children. That evening, Rebecca announced she'd be working late again the next Thursday. Another team project with Derek, she said cheerfully. You know how it is. Of course, I replied. Work comes first. She missed the coldness in my voice completely. Thursday came, and I was ready. The cameras were active, my phone was charged, and I had a plan. At 6 p.m., I watched through the garage camera as Rebecca got into her car, checking her appearance in the rearview mirror before backing out. I followed her route on GPS through my phone's tracking app, something I'd installed on her phone weeks ago when she left it charging in the kitchen. She drove straight to the Riverside Inn. But this time, I wasn't just going to watch from the parking lot. I'd reserved the room directly across the hall from 314. At 7:30 p.m., I sat in room 313, listening to the sounds from across the hallway. Voices, laughter, then silence. The kind of silence that told me everything I needed to know about what my wife was doing in there. I set up my camera to record the hallway, pointing it at room 314's door. When they eventually came out, I'd have proof of both of them leaving together. Around 11 p.m., I heard the door open. Through my peephole, I watched Rebecca emerge first, hair messed up, straightening her blouse. Derek followed, putting his hand on her lower back as they walked toward the elevator. My camera captured it all. The intimate touches, the way she looked at him, the way he kissed her cheek before the elevator doors closed. I had my proof. Now I needed to decide what to do with it. I've been collecting evidence for 2 weeks when something happened that changed everything. I was helping Mia get dressed for daycare when she looked up at me with those big brown eyes. Eyes that were nothing like mine or Rebecca's blue ones. Daddy, Mia said, why don't I look like you? The innocent question hit me like a truck. I'd always assumed she had Rebecca's father's coloring, but now, looking at her carefully, I saw features that didn't match either of our families. The nose, the jawline, even the way she smiled. That afternoon, I drove to a clinic across town and paid cash for a paternity test kit. The nurse explained it would take 3 days for results. 3 days to find out if my youngest daughter was really mine. While waiting for the test results, I continued my surveillance. Thursday came again, and Rebecca announced another late work meeting with Derek. This time, I was ready with better equipment. I'd upgraded to a professional-grade camera with zoom capabilities and night vision. From my car in the hotel parking lot, I could see directly into room 314's window. What I captured that night made me sick to my stomach. Through the partially open blinds, I watched my wife of 19 years with Derek Patterson. They weren't just having an affair. They were acting like a couple. Intimate, comfortable, like they'd been together for years. I recorded everything. Every touch, every kiss, every moment that proved Rebecca had completely betrayed our marriage vows. The next morning, Rebecca hummed while making breakfast, completely oblivious to the fact that I'd documented her entire evening of infidelity. How was your meeting last night? I asked casually. Oh, you know Derek, she said with a smile that now made me nauseous. He's very thorough. We worked until almost midnight. Worked. That's what she called it. When the DNA test results came back, I had to pull over to the side of the road to read them properly. The paper shook in my hands as I processed the words. Probability of paternity, 0%. Mia wasn't my biological daughter. I sat in my truck for an hour, trying to process this bombshell. Not only was Rebecca cheating on me, but she'd been lying about Mia's paternity for 2 years. How long had this affair really been going on? That evening, I confronted Rebecca indirectly. Honey, I said while we watched TV, I was looking at old photos today. Mia really doesn't look like either of you, does she? Rebecca's hand froze on her wine glass. What do you mean? Just her coloring, her features. She's beautiful, but she doesn't really resemble our families. Babies change a lot, Rebecca said quickly. She might grow into our features later, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She knew exactly what I was getting at. The next morning, I made a decision that went against every instinct I had as a father. I was going to tell William the truth about what was happening to our family. William was getting ready for school when I knocked on his bedroom door. "Son, we need to talk. Can you sit down for a minute?" William closed his textbook and sat on his bed. "What's going on, Dad? You've been acting strange lately." I took a deep breath. "William, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be hard to hear, but I need your help, and I need you to be strong." "Okay. Your mother is having an affair with a man named Derek Patterson. I have proof, photos, videos, everything." "And William." I paused, not sure how to say the next part. "I found out that Mia isn't my biological daughter." William's face went through a range of emotions: shock, anger, disappointment, then determination. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't realize it was this bad. There's more. I think your mother is planning to leave us for Derek. I've seen emails between them discussing their future together." William stood up and paced across his room. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fight for custody of both you kids. I don't care if Mia isn't biologically mine. She's my daughter in every way that matters. But I need you to help me document everything." "Can you do that?" "Absolutely," William said without hesitation. "Mom's been lying to all of us." "What do you need me to do?" "Keep track of when she's gone, who she talks to on the phone, any suspicious behavior. And William, if she tries to take you kids anywhere suddenly, you call me immediately." "I will, Dad." "And Dad, even if Mia isn't your biological daughter, you're still her real father. You're the one who's been there for her every day." That afternoon, William came home from school with news. "Dad, I overheard Mom on the phone during lunch. She was talking to someone about making the move soon, and something about the kids will adjust. I think she's planning to leave." My blood ran cold. "Did she say when?" "No, but she mentioned something about waiting until after her next business trip. She's supposed to go to Chicago next week with Derek." Chicago. Another business trip that was probably just a romantic getaway. That evening, Rebecca announced her Chicago trip. "It's a big client presentation," she said cheerfully. "Derek and I will be gone for 3 days. The company's putting us up at a really nice hotel downtown." "Sounds expensive," I commented. "Well, it's an important client. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money." After Rebecca went to bed, William and I sat in my office, planning our next moves. "Dad, what if she tries to take Mia when she comes back from Chicago?" "Then we'll be ready," I said. "I've already talked to a lawyer, and with the evidence I have, plus Mia not being my biological daughter, the courts will have to consider what's best for both you kids." "What about the house?" "That's more complicated. But William, I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'm going to make sure you and Mia are taken care of. You're both my children, DNA or no DNA." William nodded. "I know, Dad, and I'm going to help you fight for us." The Chicago trip was my opportunity to gather the final evidence I needed. Rebecca and Derek left on a Wednesday morning, supposedly for a 3-day client presentation. I gave them a 2-hour head start, then drove to Chicago myself. I'd booked a room at the same hotel where Rebecca told me they were staying, the Palmer House downtown. When I checked in, I casually mentioned to the desk clerk that I was supposed to meet my colleagues, Rebecca Hope and Derek Patterson. "Oh yes," the young woman said, checking her computer. "They're in our executive suite on the 18th floor. Would you like me to call up?" "No need," I said. "I'll surprise them." An executive suite, not 2 separate rooms for business colleagues, but a luxury suite for lovers. I spent the evening in the hotel bar, watching the elevators. Around 8 p.m., Rebecca and Derek came down dressed for dinner. She wore a red dress I'd never seen before, probably purchased especially for this trip. They walked hand in hand to the hotel restaurant like a married couple. I followed them and requested a table where I could observe without being seen. They ordered expensive wine, shared appetizers, and talked intimately across the table. Derek reached over and touched Rebecca's face with the tenderness of a man in love. I recorded everything on my phone. The intimate gestures, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way she leaned into him like she belonged there. Back in my room, I reviewed all the evidence I collected over the past month. Hotel receipts, photographs, email printouts, DNA test results, and now video footage of their romantic dinner. Tomorrow was Thursday, typically one of Rebecca's late work nights. I decided it was time to end this charade. I drove back to Ohio early Thursday morning and prepared for the confrontation that would change our lives forever. I printed out the most damning evidence and organized it in a folder. I set up my laptop with the video files ready to play. William helped me prepare, understanding that tonight would determine our family's future. Dad, are you sure you're ready for this? He asked. I'm ready, son. Your mother thinks she's been clever, but she's about to learn that lies always catch up with you. That evening, Rebecca called to say she was extending her Chicago trip by 1 day. The client wants to see additional presentations, she explained. Derek and I need to work through the weekend. Of course you do, I said. Take all the time you need. But I knew she was still in Chicago because I'd paid the hotel concierge $50 to call me when she checked out. She was planning to come home tomorrow and pretend she'd been working the entire time. I was going to be ready for her. Friday evening, Rebecca walked through the front door with her suitcase, acting like she'd just returned from a grueling business trip. How was Chicago? I asked, helping with her bag. Exhausting, she said. Nothing but meetings and presentations. I'm so glad to be home. I'm sure Derek was a big help with all those presentations. Rebecca paused. Yes, he's very professional. Professional. That's what she called sharing an executive suite and romantic dinners. Rebecca, I said calmly, before you get settled in, there's something I want to show you on the laptop. Some family photos I've been organizing. She looked tired but curious. Can it wait until tomorrow? I really need a shower and unpack. This won't take long, I insisted. Just a few minutes. I led her to the living room where my laptop was set up. William took Mia upstairs to give us privacy, just as we'd planned. Sit down, I said. I think you'll find these photos very interesting. Rebecca sat on the couch, completely unaware that her double life was about to be exposed in front of her. I opened the laptop and clicked on the first video file. The screen filled with footage of Rebecca and Derek entering the Riverside Inn together, his hand on her lower back as they walked toward the elevators. Rebecca's face went white. Henry, what is this? Just some family footage I've been collecting, I said calmly. Keep watching. The next video showed them leaving the hotel room 3 hours later, Rebecca's hair disheveled, both of them looking like they'd been doing exactly what married people don't do with their coworkers. This isn't what you think, Rebecca stammered, but her voice was shaking. Really? Then explain this. I clicked on the video from the Palmer House restaurant. There was Rebecca in her red dress, holding hands with Derek across the dinner table, leaning in for a kiss that lasted longer than any business meeting would require. You follow me to Chicago? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I followed my wife, who told me she was working but was actually having a romantic getaway with her lover. I opened a folder of printed emails and spread them across the coffee table. These are your emails with Derek, discussing your future together, talking about how I'll probably be reasonable about custody. Rebecca stared at the papers like they were poisonous snakes. And this, I said, pulling out the DNA test results, shows that Mia isn't my biological daughter. How long has this affair really been going on, Rebecca? She started crying, but not the tears of remorse. The tears of someone whose carefully constructed lies were falling apart. Henry, please, let me explain. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. You've been living a double life, planning to leave me for Derek, and lying about our daughter's paternity for 2 years. Rebecca stood up and started pacing. You don't understand. Derek and I, we have something special. Something real. With you, everything is just routine. Routine? I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I supported you through every career change. I raised what I thought was our daughter while you were out playing house with Derek. But you don't see me anymore, Henry. You don't make me feel alive the way Derek does. There it was, the truth she'd been hiding behind all the lies. I wasn't exciting enough for her anymore. So instead of talking to your husband about problems in our marriage, you decided to cheat and plan to steal my children. They're my children too. Mia isn't even mine. I shouted, losing my composure for the first time. You let me raise another man's daughter while you were having an affair. Rebecca's face twisted with anger. Yes, she's Derek's daughter. And yes, I love him. He's the man I really should have married. I felt something inside me break at her words. Not my heart, that had been breaking slowly for months. My patience. Pack your things, I said quietly. What? Pack your things and get out of my house. Tonight. You can't make me leave. This is my house too. Actually, I can. The house is in my name only. Remember? You insisted on that when we refinanced 3 years ago for tax reasons. And Rebecca, if you try to take the children, especially Mia, I'll make sure every judge in the state sees these videos and emails. Rebecca looked around the room wildly, like she was trying to find an escape route. "I'm going to call Derek," she said, pulling out her phone. "He'll know what to do." "Go ahead," I said. "Call your boyfriend. Tell him his secret is out, and his side piece needs a place to stay." As Rebecca dialed Derek's number with shaking hands, I realized I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The lies were finally over, and I could start building an honest life for my children and myself. Rebecca spent 30 minutes on the phone with Derek, crying and explaining how I'd ambushed her with evidence. I could hear his voice through the speaker, telling her to stay calm, and that they'd figure something out. When she hung up, she looked at me with a mixture of desperation and defiance. "Derek's coming over," she announced. "We need to talk about this like adults." "There's nothing to talk about," I replied. "You've been living a lie for 2 years, and now it's over." "Henry, you don't understand the whole situation. There's more you need to know." I sat back in my chair. "I'm listening." Rebecca took a shaky breath. "Mia isn't Derek's daughter either." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "The affair with Derek started 6 months ago. But before that, there were others." William, who had been listening from the hallway, stepped into the room. "Mom, what are you saying?" Rebecca looked at her son with tears in her eyes. "William, I'm so sorry you have to hear this. But your father deserves the truth." "Rebecca," I said slowly, "are you telling me that William isn't my son either?" She nodded miserably. "I had the test done last week, after you started asking questions about Mia." William's biological father is someone I was seeing during our rough patch 18 years ago. William's face went white. "What rough patch? I don't remember any problems when I was born." "You were too young to remember. Your father was working 2 jobs. I felt neglected, and I made terrible choices. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Both of my children, the kids I'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for, weren't biologically mine." "Who?" I asked quietly. "Who is William's father?" "Tom Bradley from my old job. He moved to California years ago. He doesn't even know about William." William sat down heavily. "So I'm not your son, Dad?" I looked at this young man I taught to drive, helped with homework, coached in Little League, and felt my heart break all over again. "William," I said firmly, "biology doesn't make a father. I've been your dad for 17 years. I changed your diapers, walked the floors when you were sick, celebrated every birthday and graduation. You are my son, no matter what any test says." "But Mom lied to you about everything," William said, tears in his eyes. "Your mother made choices that hurt our family. But you and Mia are innocent in all this. You're both my children, and I'm going to fight for both of you." Rebecca was sobbing now. "Henry, I never meant for it to happen this way. The lies just kept building, and I didn't know how to stop." "You stopped by telling the truth," I said. "But it's too late for that now." Derek's car pulled into the driveway, and Rebecca ran to let him in. When he walked into my living room, I stood up to face the man who'd been sleeping with my wife. "Derek Patterson," I said. "We finally meet properly." He had the nerve to extend his hand for a handshake. I ignored it. "Henry, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Derek said smoothly. "Rebecca and I work together, and sometimes professional relationships can be misinterpreted." I pulled out my phone and showed him the video of them kissing at the hotel restaurant. "Misinterpret that," I said. Derek's confident facade collapsed. "Look, man, I didn't mean for this to happen. Rebecca told me you two were already separated." "When did she tell you that?" 6 months ago, when we started getting close. 6 months ago, I was planning our anniversary vacation. We weren't separated. She lied to you too." Derek looked at Rebecca with confusion and growing anger. "You told me you were getting divorced." Rebecca couldn't meet his eyes. "I was going to tell Henry. I just needed time." "Time to do what?" "Plan how to steal half my assets and take my children." That's when Derek learned the final truth about the woman he thought he loved. 6 months later, I stood in family court with William by my side, waiting for the judge's final custody decision. Rebecca had fought me for both children, despite the DNA evidence and proof of her multiple affairs. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence one final time. "Mr. Hope, while DNA tests show that neither child is your biological offspring, the evidence clearly demonstrates that you have been their primary emotional and financial provider since birth. Mrs. Hope, your pattern of deception regarding paternity combined with documented infidelity and plans to relocate the children without proper custody arrangements, does not serve their best interests. I held my breath. Custody of both children is awarded to Mr. Hope, with supervised visitation rights for Mrs. Hope. William squeezed my shoulder. We won, Dad. Rebecca sat at the other table with Derek, who had stuck by her through the legal proceedings but looked increasingly uncomfortable with each revelation about her past. As we left the courthouse, Rebecca approached us one final time. Henry, I know you hate me, but please don't turn the children against me. I won't have to, I said. They're old enough to understand truth from lies. What about Mia? She's only 2. She needs her mother. Mia needs honesty and stability. 2 things you've never been able to provide. William hugged me as we walked to our car. Dad, I need to tell you something. What's that, son? Even knowing what I know now about biology and all that, you're still my father. You're the only father I've ever wanted. That evening, I sat in our living room, now officially our home, as Rebecca had signed over her rights in the divorce settlement, with both children. Mia was playing with blocks, calling me Dada, like she always had, completely unaware of the legal battles that had secured her future. William was filling out college applications at the kitchen table. You know what's funny, Dad? He said, looking up from his forms. What's that? All those years, Mom kept saying I had your stubborn streak and your work ethic. I guess those things aren't genetic after all. I learned them by watching you. I felt a peace settle over me that I hadn't experienced in years. Not the peace of a man who'd won a legal battle, but the peace of a father who'd protected his children and taught them that love isn't about blood. It's about choice, commitment, and showing up every day. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. You were right about Rebecca. Found out yesterday. She's been seeing someone else for the past month. Some things never change. I deleted the message without responding. Rebecca's future was no longer my concern. My children were safe. My conscience was clear. And for the first time in years, I was looking forward to tomorrow.